Let's get real. Everyone starts, few finish. Think about how many people you know who set goals in January, and by March it's over. Why? Because starting is emotional, but finishing is intentional. Starting is fun, finishing is powerful. Most people don't struggle to start a goal. They struggle to finish one. That's the truth we don't talk about enough. Starting something is exciting. It's emotionally charged. It feels good. There's hope, anticipation, possibility. The moment we declare a new goal, whether it's losing weight, starting a business, writing a book, or learning a skill, we feel a rush of enthusiasm. We feel like we're already becoming someone better just by making the decision. That's powerful, but that energy is temporary. What separates achievers from dreamers is this achiever's finish. They understand that success doesn't come from just dreaming big or starting strong. It comes from committing until the end, even when the emotion fades, even when it gets boring, hard, or uncertain. Starting a goal might change your mood, but finishing a goal changes your life. Why do so many people start and never finish? Because they're lazy. It's not because they lack intelligence. It's because they're conditioned to associate success with beginning, not completing. Society celebrates starting. We congratulate people for trying, for signing up, beginning. But real transformation doesn't happen at the starting line. It happens at the finish line. You can't build a legacy on ideas that never came to life. You can't become great at something if you only ever start and never push through. You don't grow in the first mile of the race. You grow in the last one. The one where your legs burn, your lungs scream, and everything inside you wants to quit. That's the mile that defines you. Here's what most people miss. Finishing is a skill. Just like any muscle in your body, it can be trained. The more often you commit to finishing even small things, the more you strengthen that muscle. You build resilience. You train your mind to push through resistance. And more importantly, you start to believe in yourself, because nothing builds self-confidence like doing what you said you do. Every time you start and don't finish, your brain records it. You teach yourself subconsciously that your words don't matter, that your plans are negotiable, that it's okay to back out when it's no longer comfortable. That pattern doesn't just apply to one goal. It becomes the lens through which you live your entire life. When you start training yourself to finish, to see things through, no matter how small, something shifts. You become more focused, more intentional. You begin to trust yourself at a deeper level. You no longer need motivation to take action because you've built a track record of doing hard things. Think about it this way. If every time you started a goal, you finished it, how different would your life look right now? What kind of person would you be? How much momentum would you have created? It's not about finishing perfectly. It's about finishing consistently. It's not about working 10 hours a day or doing everything at once. It's about honoring your word to yourself. If you said you'd write for 20 minutes today, do it. If you said you'd show up at the gym, go. The power is not in the task. The power is in the completion. When you finish, you unlock a deeper level of identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries. You become someone who executes. That identity shift is powerful. It changes how you speak, how you walk, how you approach new challenges. And the best part, it creates a positive feedback loop. Finishing builds confidence. Confidence fuels action. Action drives results. Results make you hungry to finish again. You can't expect to trust yourself with big dreams if you can't follow through on small ones. That's where it starts. Pick something today, something small, and finish it. Don't postpone it. Overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect time. Just do it, complete it, and then do it again tomorrow. Because the secret isn't in setting more goals. The secret is learning to finish the ones you already started. Once you build the identity of someone who finishes, nothing can stop you. Not fear, not failure, not fatigue. Because you know deep in your soul that no matter how long it takes or how hard it gets, you finish what you start. People often believe they're stuck because they lack motivation, discipline, or resources. But in most cases, they really lack is clarity. They don't have a crystal clear vision of what they want, why they want it, or what finishing it will do for their life. And if the mind isn't clear, it defaults to hesitation. It falls into distraction. You can't drive full speed through fog, and you can't move forward in life if your goals are foggy. We live in a world filled with noise. Everyone is talking, scrolling, reacting. But very few people are clear. They chase goals because someone else is doing it. They pursue success because they think they're supposed to. But deep down, they're not connected to it. And when you're not emotionally connected to a goal, you will not finish it. Because the moment pressure shows up, and it always does, you'll lose interest. You'll justify quitting. You'll tell yourself it wasn't meant to be. But when you're clear, when the vision is sharp, everything changes. You start waking up with purpose. You don't need to be pushed or reminded. You don't waste energy asking, should I keep going? You already know. Clarity eliminates doubt. It simplifies decision-making. It amplifies focus. The truth is, most people don't rise to their goals. They rise to the level of their clarity. You can have all the potential in the world, but if you don't know exactly what you're aiming for, your potential never gets activated. Let's break it down. Say your goal is, I want to be successful. That sounds nice, but what does it actually mean? What does success look like for you? What does it feel like? What's the measurable result? And most importantly, why does it matter to you? Till your mind and heart can answer those questions, your actions will be half-hearted. You'll start strong, but fade fast. That's not because you're broken. It's because your brain needs a target. Your nervous system needs direction. Think of your goals like a GPS. You can't get to your destination without a precise address, and you certainly can't expect momentum if you haven't entered coordinates. So how do you build clarity? You ask better questions. You don't just say, what do I want? You ask, what do I refuse to live without? What would light me up every single day? What would make this year the most meaningful year of my life? And then you dig deeper. Why does this matter to me right now? Will benefit if I finish this? What will it cost me emotionally, financially, physically if I don't? You get clear by connecting your goal, your purpose. Purpose isn't a cute slogan or an Instagram quote. It's an emotional anchor. It's the reason you fight through the days when you don't feel like it, and those days will come. But if your why is strong enough, the resistance won't stop you. You won't need perfect conditions, more time, or more motivation. You'll just move. Because you're no longer chasing a goal, you're fulfilling something that matters. Clarity isn't just about the outcome. It's also about the path. Once you know what you want and why it matters, you must define how to get there. Are the specific steps? What do you need to learn, change, eliminate, or commit to? What's the timeline? Who can help you? And most of all, what's the next small step you can take today? Most people get overwhelmed not because the goal is too big, because the steps are too vague. When your path is undefined, your progress is inconsistent. But when you break things down into simple, actionable steps, finishing becomes inevitable. Let's be clear, clarity doesn't mean everything is guaranteed. It doesn't mean the path will be smooth or easy, but it does mean you're moving with intention. And that's where your power comes from. When you're intentional, you don't get distracted by opinions. You don't chase shiny objects. You don't get discouraged by slow progress. You trust the process because you know why you're doing it. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence fuels consistency. And consistency is what finishes goals every single time. So if you're struggling to finish something right now, don't just work harder. Don't just push through blindly. Step back. Ask yourself, am I truly clear on what I want? Or am I operating on assumptions and emotion? Because the clearer you are, unstoppable you become. Momentum is one of the most underestimated forces in human achievement. It's not flashy. It doesn't scream for attention. But once you have it, it feels like the world starts working with you instead of against you. Things click. Progress accelerates, discipline becomes natural, and the best part, you don't need to wait for a breakthrough to create momentum. You can build it, starting with the smallest, most ordinary actions. Momentum doesn't show up by accident. It's the result of consistent, repeated action over time. It begins when you stop thinking and start moving. When you take action, especially when you don't feel ready, you generate energy, and that energy builds on itself. It doesn't matter if the action is small. The first steps are rarely impressive. It could be writing for 10 minutes, going for a 5-minute walk, making one phone call, or turning off distractions for half an hour. Matters isn't how big the step is. What matters is that you took it. The problem is most people wait. They wait for motivation, for inspiration, for the right time. But momentum doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who move. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. If you're always waiting to feel ready, you'll never move. You have to stop treating action like a reward for feeling good. Instead, you make action the cause, and let motivation be the effect. When you create momentum, you create movement, and movement shifts your identity. Think about it. When you finish something, even something small, you start to feel like a person who finishes. You see evidence of your capability. You build trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence, and confidence fuels bigger actions. This cycle of doing and finishing doesn't just move you closer to your goal. It transforms who you believe you are. The beauty of momentum is that it makes the hard things easier. Not because the tasks themselves change, but because you change. The same workout that felt overwhelming becomes something you look forward to. The same business tasks that used to drain you become part of your rhythm. That's what momentum does. It rewires how you relate to effort. You stop resisting the process and start flowing with it. Now, this is important. Momentum doesn't require perfection. It doesn't mean never missing a day or doing everything right. It means staying in motion. Even if you stumble, even if the progress is slower than expected, you don't stop. You keep showing up. Momentum isn't about speed. It's about consistency. It's not about explosive starts. It's about sustainable habits. Imagine a train. At first, it takes a massive amount of energy to get it moving just a little. But once it gains speed, it becomes almost impossible to stop. That's you. When you're stuck, everything feels heavy. But when you get in motion, even slowly, the weight begins to shift. You begin to feel progress. You begin to crave progress. You begin to expect progress. That expectation changes how you approach every goal. It's also worth noting that momentum is contagious. When you start moving forward in one area of life, it spills into others. Start showing up for your health. You'll start making better decisions in your business. Start being consistent with your goals, and you'll notice more discipline in your relationships, your finances, your mindset. Progress breeds progress. One of the greatest shifts you can make is to stop chasing motivation and start mastering momentum. Motivation is emotional. It comes and goes. It's unreliable. But momentum is mechanical. It's built on repetition. You don't have to feel good to build momentum. You just have to get moving. This is why finishing small things matters so much. People overlook the power of completing one simple task because they think it's not enough. Every small win becomes a brick in the foundation of your future. Each one reinforces the belief that you're capable of progress. And when those wins stack up, the momentum becomes unstoppable. If you ever feel stuck, overwhelmed, like you're not getting anywhere, ask yourself, when was the last time you followed through and finished something? When was the last time you created movement, no matter how small? The fastest way to shift your entire mindset isn't by thinking more. It's by doing something you can finish today. Momentum is not magic. It's a skill, a practice, a choice you make daily. It starts small, but it grows fast. And once you harness it, you don't just accomplish more, you become more. Discipline is the bridge between intention and completion, and it matters more than motivation because motivation is a feeling, while discipline is a decision. You won't feel inspired every day. You won't wake up excited every morning. Some days you will want to delay, distract, or negotiate with yourself. That's exactly why discipline is the differentiator. It's the mechanism that gets you to act independent of mood. When you rely on motivation, you're outsourcing your progress to emotion. When you build discipline, you internalize certainty. You move because you said you would, not because you feel like it. Discipline is fundamentally about trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you do, even when it's inconvenient, you deposit into an internal bank account called self-belief. Over time, that account compounds into confidence. Conversely, every time you break an agreement with yourself, you reinforce a subtle identity. I don't follow through. That identity bleeds into every area of life. So the real work isn't just checking tasks off a list. It's crafting an identity of a finisher. Someone whose word to themselves is non-negotiable. A common mistake is thinking discipline is about intensity. It's not. It's about consistency. Anyone can be intense for a week. Few can be consistent for a year. Discipline is built through repeatable systems, not heroic spurts. Design your environment so that the disciplined choice is the easy choice. Prep gym clothes the night before, block distracting apps. Schedule deep work in your calendar with the same seriousness as a medical appointment. Make it harder to fail than to follow through. Discipline grows when you remove friction from the right behaviors and add friction to the wrong ones. Another practical layer of discipline is reducing decisions. Decision fatigue kills follow through. Decide your routines, what days you train. When you write how you'll handle cravings or distractions, your minimum viable action is on low energy days, implementation intentions. If X happens, I will do Y. Transform vague goals into executable protocols. If I miss my morning workout, we'll do a 20-minute bodyweight session at 6 p.m. Now you aren't improvising when you're tired. You're executing a plan you made when you were clear. Discipline also demands that you choose standards over moods. Standards are the floor, the ceiling of your behavior. A standard might be, I ship one piece of content every week, or I read 10 pages daily, or I don't skip 2 days in a row. These floors protect momentum during hard periods and prevent the all, or nothing spiral that kills long-term progress. Progress slows when you treat every dip like a derailment. Discipline says, even if I can't do my best today, I will still do what's required. You can't develop discipline if your identity is tied to comfort. Begin to view discomfort as a signal you're on the growth edge, not a cue to pull back. The rep you don't want to do is the rep that changes you. The sales call you fear is the one that rewires your nervous system for courage. The paragraph you write when you're uninspired is the one that proves you're a writer, not a waiter for inspiration. Discipline reframes resistance not as a wall, but as a weight you can get stronger lifting. Track your behavior, just your intentions. What gets measured gets managed, and what gets celebrated gets repeated. A simple daily streak tracker, a habit scorecard. Weekly review builds awareness and closes the gap between how disciplined you think you are and how disciplined you actually are. Measurement is a mirror, sometimes uncomfortable, always useful. Use it to refine, not a shame. Discipline thrives when feedback is immediate and honest. Expect boredom. High performers don't escape it, they master it. The difference between dabblers and doers is that doers can execute the basics long after the excitement fades. Mastery is largely a function of your ability to stay with the fundamentals without constantly needing novelty. Discipline teaches you to love the process more than the applause, the routine more than the rush. Finally, remember that disciplined action is compassionate action. It's not punishment, it's protection of your future, your potential, your promises. When you act with discipline, you're telling your future self, I've got you. You're choosing long-term alignment over short-term relief. And every time you make that choice, you reinforce a neural pathway, a behavioral groove, an identity that says, I can count on me. Motivation might start the engine. Discipline keeps the vehicle moving through traffic, weather, detours, and breakdowns. Build systems, set standards, honor commitments, and measure the truth. Do that long enough, you won't be chasing motivation anymore. You'll be propelled by the quiet, unshakable momentum of a person who finishes what they start. Every time you finish something, no matter how small, you're not just achieving a goal, you're reinforcing a piece of your identity. You're telling yourself and the world, this is who I am. Yeah. And over time, that message becomes deeply embedded. That's the real power behind finishing your goals. It's not about checking boxes. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't leave things undone. Every act of completion is a vote for a stronger identity, one built on commitment, follow through, and integrity. Most people don't realize how personal a finish goal really is. They think finishing is just about external progress, a project delivered, a degree earned, a task completed. But the deeper truth is that every time you follow through, your identity evolves. You stop seeing yourself as someone who just wants success and start seeing yourself as someone who creates it. That shift is massive because identity drives behavior more than willpower ever will. You become the person who finishes. You no longer need to talk yourself into action. Your habits start to follow who you believe you are. This is why so many people struggle to stay consistent. They're trying to change their behavior without changing how they see themselves. They try to adopt new habits with the same old mindset. But when you keep quitting, when you leave things half finished, you reinforce a dangerous belief. Your commitments are optional. You begin to identify as someone who starts but doesn't follow through, and that belief silently undermines everything you try to do. But the opposite is also true. You start finishing things even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard. You create alignment between your actions and your self-image. That alignment builds integrity. Integrity is one of the most powerful internal forces you can have. When who you say you are matches what you do, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you stop fighting yourself. You see, identity is not fixed. It's shaped by repetition. You don't become a disciplined person by thinking about discipline. You become one by doing disciplined things over and over until it no longer feels like effort. It just feels like who you are. You don't become confident by reading about confidence. You build confidence by keeping promises to yourself until you know without a doubt that you can be trusted. The act of finishing something builds that trust. It's a message to your nervous system that you're reliable, you're capable, and you're in control of your life, even when circumstances are chaotic, when things don't go as planned, when obstacles appear. If you keep finishing what matters, train your system to respond with strength instead of doubt. Think about someone who finishes what they start, someone whose results you admire. Their success isn't just built on talent or luck. It's built on self-respect. They respect their word enough to follow through. That respect becomes the foundation for their habits, their mindset, and ultimately their outcomes. And it can be yours too, but only if you stop abandoning your own goals when it's no longer convenient. There's something else of finishing builds a sense of completion that the brain craves. Our minds are wired to seek closure. When we leave things open, projects half done, promises half kept, we carry mental clutter. We're distracted, scattered, drained. But when we finish something, we create resolution, we free up energy, we feel lighter, clearer, more focused. The more you finish, the more capacity you unlock to take on what really matters. Even small completions count. In fact, they're critical. Every time you finish a workout, write a page, record a video, send the message, close the loop, you're building momentum. That momentum doesn't just carry you forward in that area. It starts to spill over. You show up differently at work, at home, in relationships. Because once your identity shifts to, I finish what I start, it touches everything. The truth is you already have what it takes to reach your goals. You might be missing is the discipline to stay with them until they're done. And the awareness that every time you finish, you're literally reshaping who you are. You're no longer someone trying to achieve, you're someone aligned with achievement. And that kind of person doesn't wait for the perfect time or the perfect plan. They move. They follow through. They finish. And with every goal you complete, that identity becomes stronger, deeper, and more permanent. You don't just complete tasks. You build a reputation with yourself and with the world as someone who sees things through. Your life isn't shaped by what you start. It's shaped by what you complete. Look around your physical environment, your finances, your health, your relationships. They're all reflections of the things you finished or left unfinished. Every area of your life is quietly keeping score. It doesn't matter how many ideas you had, how many plans you made, or how much potential you carry. What matters is what you follow through on. The unfinished goals, the half-built plans, the tasks that stay on your to-do list for weeks, months, even years. Those don't just sit in your schedule, they live in your mind. They weigh you down more than you realize. Each one becomes an open loop, draining your energy, dividing your focus, and planting seeds of doubt in your own ability to execute. Finished goals become emotional debt, and like any debt, the longer it sits, the heavier it feels. We've been conditioned to chase newness, to constantly plan, brainstorm, and dream. But the truth is, dreaming doesn't move you forward unless it leads to completion. In fact, constantly starting new things without finishing old ones creates a pattern, and that pattern becomes your identity. It becomes easier to begin and abandon than to commit and complete. And if that pattern takes root, it doesn't just affect your productivity, it erodes your self-trust. But finishing changes that. When you complete something, you send a message to your subconscious, I follow through. That message reinforces confidence. It brings closure. It frees up cognitive space to think more clearly, act more decisively, and live with more intention. The clarity you're craving, momentum you keep chasing, most of it is waiting on the other side of completion. It's important to understand that unfinished goals don't just sit in isolation. They create noise. They become distractions you carry around mentally and emotionally. find yourself jumping from one task to another, not because you're busy, but because part of your attention is always pulled back to what's still hanging open. It's hard to be present in one area of life when you're haunted by the chaos you've left behind in another. That's why finishing a goal is about more than achievement. It's about liberation. It's about clearing space for what matters now. It's about no longer dragging yesterday's promises into today's focus. When you finish something, even a small thing, you reclaim bandwidth. You create closure. You draw a line in the sand that says, this part is done. I'm not carrying it anymore. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones with the most goals. They're the ones who finish the right ones. They understand that completion creates compounding results. A finished project opens doors. A completed commitment builds credibility. A fulfilled promise strengthens your character. The act of finishing becomes a platform you can stand on, solid, dependable, and powerful. Now, none of this means you have to finish everything you've ever started. Sometimes quitting is wise, but only when it's intentional. The key is to be honest with yourself. Are you stopping because your priorities change? Are you stopping because it got uncomfortable? Are you redirecting your energy with purpose, or are you just escaping the discipline required to finish? There's a massive difference between strategic quitting and impulsive abandoning. Creates clarity. The other breeds chaos. Don't confuse relief with resolution. Finishing something doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it leaves you with a sense of integrity that lingers. That integrity becomes your foundation. It builds your capacity to handle more, to take on bigger challenges, and to trust yourself at higher levels. And this is the most powerful truth. Once you learn to finish, you're no longer afraid to start. The fear of failure, the fear of wasting time, the fear of not being good enough, all of that fades when you've trained yourself to complete. You don't question your potential anymore. You don't hesitate at the edge of commitment. You step in fully because you know that whatever you begin, bring to the finish line. Finishing isn't the end. It's the beginning of something stronger, a version of you that doesn't shrink back, doesn't delay, doesn't depend on perfect conditions. It's a version of you that leads, that decides, that executes. Every time you complete something that matters, you earn the right to carry that identity forward into the next challenge. That's how you build a life that reflects your highest potential, not through scattered effort, not through bursts of passion, but through the relentless, consistent habit of seeing things through. So start honoring your goals, not with excitement, but with completion. That's where the real transformation begins.